Good morning, good evening, or good riddance. Welcome to the Spire Riffcast, where we'll be discussing all things metal, non-metal, and every point in between. With this podcast, we hope to lift the veil on our world and metal music and dig into some topics we've wanted to share with all of you. This will be informal, so please take our content with a grain of salt and a sense of humor. Right now, you are listening to the Riffcast episode 12. Sorry, the last podcast I said episode 12. This one is episode 12. I am Spire guitarist Pat Young, and I'm here with guitarist co-pilot Zack Town. Let's riff. Sup.
I've been here all weekend, so it's not exactly sup, is it?
It's not a sup. We're ready to... I'm already home, and I'm ready to be home, and you're ready to go home. Let's just get through this. So we had Friday. Well, it's Sunday now. We had an open mic. We hosted an open mic at the Metal Alcove. That's the name of the venue. It's just Lawrence's place, Lawrence and Rob Fisher.
It's our DIY venue.
Yes. But that's pretty cool. They have like it's a flat, and it's over on Tip Hill, Syracuse. So they have like the third, what would be the attic, is... At one point in time, it was like the Bro Fest, like the St. Patty's Day fraternity, like pong table place that both of the flats would share. So their buddies are first floor, they're the second floor, and then the third floor they share with everybody. And so people are pretty cool about it. So we hosted an open mic there, and that was pretty awesome. Lawrence was bartending, and I did a few songs, and I had to put in some Nirvana tunes. I think I probably told this story on one of the podcasts, I'm sure, but our first show ever, Spire show ever, was in a basement of a church, and I had a couple of our friends still remember that and remind me of it, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I had it filed away. There were cobwebs on it. You brought it up again, but basically... at practice, we would play Smells Like Teen Spirit just because I loved Nirvana. And Lawrence hates Nirvana. And so he played it like sarcastically, but he played the song. And it was never intended to be at a show to him. But to me, I was like, oh, we ran out of songs, so let's do Nirvana. And Lawrence is looking at me like, why are you doing this? And it was just like totally flopped. He was so mad at me. And so I did a little ode to Lawrence at the open mic, and I played 2 Nirvana songs. One of them was Nirvana covering the Meat Puppets, but it's still Nirvana, so I tried to sound as much like Kurt as I could and dedicate that to him. And then I was blindsided because I heard you sing for the first time. I didn't know you were doing that. I said, oh, you got some material? And you're like, yeah, I'll be doing I think I'll be doing a few. Like, you got songs in your pocket. And you just started singing. I thought you were going to play some elevator music, and you're fucking singing...
Yeah.
I don't know. I described it as Paul Wagner of Between the Buried and Me with that Desert of Song. The radio stopped tuning.
I wanted to do that one. We'll have to...
Yeah,
we're saying
throw it in there.
Saying it publicly now, but I want to do that at some point. The next time we do one of these things, we got to get together and do a version of that.
Yeah, I've never heard you. I've heard you singing like... when we were in Sort of Truth. I met you in like 2009 or 8. So I heard you like just referencing like parts or something, or like little vocal lines there, and I'm sure you've lended your gang scream or something like at a show or two, but I've never heard you like singing that like really truly trying at like singing.
That wasn't a pirate voice.
That wasn't a pirate voice, drunken pirate voice or anything. No, it was a serious voice. It was really interesting because everybody's singing voices. You can hear them in it, but your singing voice is your own. It's a different voice than what you have. So that was nice. I think that might sway a little difference in future material. You know, like a little bit of a variety in there. We could change it up a bit. I like doing that. So yeah, open mic was fun. The next night, which was last night, or actually technically today, because the show went really late.
We played yesterday.
Right? We did play yesterday.
Played within the hours of yesterday.
Yes, the hours of yesterday. And that was in Buffalo at the Two Door Lounge. How do you say it?
Two-door.
Two-door.
Yeah.
I'm like, Tudor. Haha. Tudor. Two-door Lounge. Small little place. Super Killer Robots hooked us
like
up with
multiple doors, like the type of house.
Yes.
UDOR.
Yeah. Or like a car. We're gonna play it. We're gonna upgrade to the Fedor. The Fedor Lounge.
Gondor Lounge.
The Gondor Lounge. There's the what is it? No door, two door, Gondor.
Door, Mordor, and Gondor.
Yeah, door, Mordor, Gondor. Insert pictures of doors. But yeah, that was a good time. It was a small little place, and we were treated pretty well out there with the Super Killer Robots guys. So shout out to them, Chris and Jim. Thank you guys for having us out there. And that popped the Buffalo cherry for us, which is unacceptable. 13 years as a band, and we've never played Buffalo. But we've played Albany, like, equidistant.
Yeah.
We've played that like a dozen times, if not more. So I'm glad we got out there. I want to get out there again already. I want to get out there. And sorry, guys, sorry for people that we haven't done a podcast in like a month, but we've been very busy. If you listen to the last one, we were talking about or the last couple, we've been talking about going into the studio and tracking this thing. And York, he stayed last night, but he had to get going. He had to get on the road. But maybe we'll have him in at another point in time and have him talk about his drumming experience there. But I can say that was surreal. I'm impressed. That was the first time he tracked a full length record with anybody. He's done a lot of studio work before, but he was telling me that was the first time he did like a full thing. Yeah. So it took a lot out of him. 3 days. We had a setup day. You came in. And do you want to just go through the briefly, like a little bit of okay, what was your role in this?
Yeah. I mean, drums were done at Todd Hoban's studios out here, a little bit north of Syracuse, and I mean, Mike's pretty comfortable working with Brett Hoban out of that studio, so that was sort of just the obvious choice for us to go and do drums there. But we had a little setup day first, got the drums in, got everything tuned up. I mean, this is kind of an interesting process for all of us because, I mean, we've all done albums before, but I mean, the last time that we actually recorded an album, I mean, for either one of us was quite a number of years ago. So we've learned a lot more since then. So going into this one, I definitely felt a lot more comfortable doing drums. This is honestly the first time I've ever been part of recording drums where I've actually been happy with the results. So
well, and you were primarily involved with that process too.
Yeah, but that's because I'm sure if you've listened to our podcast before, you know that we're going to have this music that we're recording, this upcoming album, is going to be mixed and mastered by Jamie King down at the Basement Recording Studios in North Carolina. If you know the name, you know that he's done pretty much every album for Between the Buried and Me since their first record. So
was it since their first record?
Since their first record.
Really?
Yep. Yeah, he did the self-titled.
Wow.
So I ended up finding out a lot about the kind of the particulars of what he wants out of the tracked material for him to work with good, as far as mixing and mastering. So I really tried to like make that happen tracking wise, as best we could on our own, in a studio like that. And it turned out great because he's got a really nice room in there. It's the perfect sized drum room for doing metal drums because it's a really nice small room with good like acoustic control in there. You can really get like a nice dry signal. It's not too boomy. And Mike is phenomenal at tuning his drums, and he's got a really nice kit. So I guess for the gearheads out there, I don't actually know what drums because I'm not a drummer. I don't know any of that stuff, but I know he's got a really nice kit. Everything sounds good. I think it's they're either birch or maple shells. I don't know. Whatever it is, they sound fantastic. And so he tuned them up real sweet, and tuning to, like, it's funny if you're listening and you're familiar with the recording process, all of this is going to be like, oh yeah, I've done that a million times before. But if you're not,
all you Jersey Italians.
If you're not, I definitely learned a lot before we did this, and I'm happy that I was able to apply some of that for recording, tuning, tuning the toms. We tuned them as low as we really could. We tuned every tom like as low as it would go, basically. And what that ended up doing was acoustically getting rid of a lot of the mid-range tone of it, which kind of makes it, it could make it sound like a bouncy ball or like a basketball, like that kind of tone. You don't want that with extreme metal music because it doesn't really sound heavy. And we ended up,
but you think it would. You'd think that it would make it having like boomier, like having it but
really
it's
not. Yeah, the interesting thing about miking up toms that I was really pleased with our results is like when you're close miking toms, you're only close miking them to get kind of the impact of hitting those toms, and the rest of the tonality of it is really more provided by like your room mics and your overhead mics, and that's what makes it sound like a real drum kit. And those close mics are just to kind of help you get that like
the clarity in the attack,
the clarity of the performance. So that was really everything about that, everything about the sound of the drums went phenomenal. I was really very happy with it, and after that it was really just 3 days or so. Yeah, 3 days of here's our. It was
just 25 hours of drumming.
Yeah, just 25 hours of drumming. That's like. I wouldn't actually have arms if I had to do that.
Yeah, I don't know how he was doing what he was doing, but we'll get that reaction of how our friend turned into a zombie in 3 days.
He was telling me the other day that he doesn't actually remember recording.
He doesn't. No, he was talking to me about it.
Like he just doesn't remember it because it was like he blacked out.
So there you go, guys. There you go. And he drove home after that. So. No tracking albums. There needs to be like an commercial,
like an OSHA standard.
Yeah,
recording.
No driving home after 25 hours of drumming. Give your friends your keys.
Yeah,
your bandmates.
Yep. But I don't know. I mean, we know a lot about what we did there. I don't know if I want to get into like. Mic choice and mic placement and preamp stuff.
We can dedicate a whole cast to just having like talking with him about it. It'd be nice to get him there and
stuff.
Yeah. And then the following weekend, was it the following weekend? It's just last weekend. I started tracking rhythm guitars, and. I got to take my guitar in and look at some intonation. Possible issue with that. It can get way more complicated if you let it. and we definitely want to let it, because this is really important. This is a serious record. We're excited about it, so we're going to definitely track every little bit of dust that falls upon us and analyze it, to make sure everything is fresh. But the process, we were talking with Dave Reed a while back, and he had come down for a weekend, and he was helping us out with guitar tones, and he got us a really sweet sounding, after all this time sitting with it, it's sounding nice. It's crisp. It's got some balls, but it's still bright enough, when it goes into when it's going through those speakers, it's heavy, man.
Oh, yeah.
And we started our process last weekend, and we're doing. If you want to explain? I'm not going to explain it.
You want me to do the dork in it?
Can you?
Maybe should we have you explain it as like? Is that comedic relief?
Well, what you do is you'll explain it, and I'll give you captions of you explaining it. So why don't you go into that a little bit, and I'll chime in with some gems.
Thanks.
I'm just the one playing the guitar. I don't fucking give a shit.
Yeah,
go for it.
I mean, dork wise, we're gonna be tracking guitars with the Line 6 Pod HD 500X, which is what Pat uses for live and for recording. We both use it, and we're doing a pretty simple, just like a heavy rhythm electric guitar sound on there, and like we dialed in the noise gates and the compression and like all that stuff. Dave Reed really helped us out with to get it sounding nice, and
honing in digital technology.
Yeah,
it's an awful time.
It's a pain in the ass.
It's good to have some really fresh ears.
Yeah, it's good to have somebody who kind of knew what the hell they were doing, because I sure don't. And a tracking process with this, because it's all digital, you can just record directly into your digital audio software. We're doing that, and we're also splitting the signal so that we're recording just the dry signal from the guitar simultaneously with the distortion guitar from the Line 6 pod. So what that's going to let us do is in the future, if we decide to reamp our guitar tones, which is a whole other process entirely.
Which Jamie might do that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. He's definitely, he's known to do some reamping. So that option is there when you have the dry signal, and that's, I'm sure nowadays this is kind of standard protocol for any recording session, even if you are recording, amps, like tube amps and cabinets and everything like that in a room, you still split and you still record that dry signal, because it can end up really saving your ass later down the line. And
you won't have to re-record it.
That's what this is doing. Re-record another
this is performance. You listening to it,
and you can
9 months later, and playing that ear game.
Yeah.
And you get into the curse of recording,
yeah.
And that's what that saves you from. Is okay, we have an amazing performance, and so now we can still change it. After the fact.
Yeah. So we're our last song that we recorded, Passive Progressive, which we technically released it in January of earlier this year. It was very similar process in all respects that we've just described, but I think now we're more comfortable using that particular piece of gear for recording, because I mean, for me, being honest, because I don't use it live for my tone. I'm just not really used to like playing with it much, playing out of it. But I'm really happy with how it's been working for this. And we kind of came up with another little clever thing that we'll share with you. Being that you're recording directly into this digital device, it does all of your amp modeling, it does all of your effects processing, EQ, compression, noise gating, and your flowery effects too, time based, and like delay effects, everything like that, modulation. You can have, I mean, there's all sorts of stuff, and it really, to be totally honest, it's a really good sounding piece of gear. But there's something that you miss when you can't be in a room with an amp and some speakers. There's a certain like energy that of having this amplifier pushing sound out at you that you sometimes miss out on that when you got your pair of studio headphones on and you're sitting in your chair with your guitar and you got the click track going and everything is just there in your ears. There's something that you miss out on sometimes. So what we ended up doing is splitting the signal out of the Line 6 pod, sending one channel into Pro Tools to record, and sending the other channel over to the effects loop return of our amplifier, and then out of letting the amplifier power its half stack cabinet. And what that is letting us do is we're monitoring in totally real time out of the guitar amplifier and the cabinet as loud as we want to, while simultaneously recording the Line 6 pod tone as well as our dry signal for later reamping. And we were totally like blown away by how well it was working out, because we were able to do some fun like rock and roll feedback kind of sounds with it.
Things you are limited to in the genre of metal. There's that in like gent and all that stuff is very clean and crisp, and that's, you're limited to that when you're sitting there. Like you said, you're sitting there with your headphones in your room and you're pumping out this really technical material and this ethereal, all these effects and everything, and the production sounds great, but you are missing that rock and roll. And we have those elements. We were stuck for a while. We had those elements of wanting to just let the natural instrument and the electronics react with each other. Let it all like buzz out and feedback and control it. And my amplifier was now, I'm jamming out. I'm sitting there jamming out, but I was recording with this digital technology, and my amp was no longer my guitar amp. Now it's strictly like a monitor for me to listen back to what I'm playing, and by me physically moving my body, getting up from my chair or whatever, moving my body towards this monitor and putting my guitar right up to that speaker cone, now I have a controllable feedback that sounds real. It is real.
It's so cool because the cabinet, the speakers in the cabinet are pushing the air and vibrating your strings, and that's going back into your guitar pickup. So, and then that's being recorded and digitally modeled. The digital amplifier modeling in the pod is taking that signal and doing the same thing with it.
It holds that information.
It sounds
that magnetism.
Honestly, it sounds totally natural. It's really, really amazing. Actually, I was blown away.
If anyone's seen the guy go up, like he leaves, he kind of leaves the front and center of the audience, and he turns his back and he goes up to his amp at a really powerful part of the show, and he puts that guitar right up to the cabinet, and he starts moving his guitar back and forth, and it's feeding back. And we were able to, I'm sure this has been done a million times, but it felt innovative and new to us because we were stuck for a while. We didn't know how to solve this issue, and now we're able to actually breathe real air into a digital rig.
Yeah. I mean,
it's pretty exciting.
Yeah. I mean, some people would say, like, why don't you just mic up the cabinet, rather than, because then you get the same effect. You have the mic'd up cabinet and you're recording, but the Line 6 pod, I think for us, it's just making the whole recording process a little more versatile and a little easier, because we don't necessarily have to have that amplifier on like 6 to do some recording. We can just have it on for those few special parts that we need that extra energy for, that extra feedback and that kind of thing. We don't actually need to like set up the amplifier in the cabinet, get it mic'd up, make sure your mics are in exactly the same spot.
You have a more consistent environment.
So the whole thing is,
because we're not tracking this all in 1 week. Yeah. We're tracking it when we can.
Or in like a great studio or anything like that. We're
hence the reamping,
doing it on our own. So yeah. So I mean I'm super pumped to continue doing the guitar process of this album.
So what we accomplished last weekend was, when there were a few little issues, like Star Trek-y issues, like electromagnetic interference, whatever, from I don't know what was going on, buzzing in the drive signal, hissing from above, wherever this is.
It was the aliens.
Yeah, the aliens. The Martians. But what we did accomplish eventually was I did my rhythm tracking for one song. We got it done, and we are quad tracking. We did this for Discovery, maybe more as like a sort of remedy for achieving the heavy sound, than just the quad tracking process as like a blend. But we were trying to make it heavier for the Discovery record, and this one is really just polishing up my rhythm track. Like my rhythm track, Zach's gonna quad track too. So Zach, I'm asking you, what is quad tracking?
It's like a spelling bee. You have to spell it first.
Quadrilateral tracking?
Yeah. Rhombus tracking. I mean, basically the standard kind of production for doing melodic metal, extreme metal, anything like that. If you have 2 guitar players in the band, usually you'll have them both recording the same, roughly the same guitar part, and you're going to pan one guy full 100% in the left ear, and you're going to pan the other guy full 100% in the right ear. And I think most people that are familiar with audio technology and recording would just call that double tracking. Or if you had one guy doing all the rhythm guitar recording, you'd have him play the song once and you pan that full 100% left, and then you'd have him play it again, pan that full 100% right. And the effect of having those 2 performances, one in your left ear and one in your right ear, you would say, why don't you just record it once and pan it in the middle? Isn't that simpler and easier? But I mean, I think sometimes the general rule in recording is that the simpler and easier thing is not the right way to go. You got to do the more complicated thing, and then in the end it ends up sounding effortless, and that's sort of the thing that you want to go for. But doing the double track and panning 2 very similar performances, one in the left ear, one in the right, the blend that kind of accomplishes to you as you're listening to it, those slight differences in performance, they end up really kind of beefing up the sound. And a lot of times that's how bands like us play live on stage anyway. You got one guitar player on the left, one guitar player on the right, and that blend that you achieve live, you're sort of looking to duplicate that in the studio. So then quad tracking is just the one-up version of that. You have each guy is going to record his rhythm guitar performance twice for every song. And instead of only panning one one take to the left and one take to the right. You do that, and then you take your second takes and you pan them just a little bit to the opposite side of each one. So, for example, when Pat does his rhythm guitar tracking, you'll hear him on the right side 100%, and then his second take will be panned to the left 50%. And likewise with me, but
you don't necessarily notice that,
and you don't necessarily notice that.
But that's a subconscious.
The blend that's achieved by having, again, it's the same concept as double tracking. The blend that's achieved by having two very similar but just slightly different performances. The little time differences, the little dynamic differences, they all end up beefing up that guitar sound and really making it sound real and making it sound alive.
And synchronizing us more, I think.
Yeah. So we're gonna end up having 4 rhythm guitar tracks, and it's the idea. Like I said before, the idea is to make it sound effortless. The idea is to make it sound like this isn't like it. That it's just guitars, just heavy guitars. And so, talking about it like this, where, it's such a kind of specific production thing, and this is probably only going to interest like a handful of people, but I mean, this is the kind of thing that I always look for out of the bands that we listen to. I always look for that conversation about how that sound is achieved, because really our style of music, and I mean, it's crazy how much music like this is dependent on like technological advances. We would never be able to do the things that we do, if we were still using the same design of tube amplifiers as they were using in the 1950s or the 40s. It's like everything has come such a long way with, structuring your gain and all the different technologies that we've got, different strings and better pickups and everything like that. Is just, it's a huge part of making heavy music sound heavy. So you really have to, if you want to do that, if you want to make a heavy sounding album, you really have to get down and dirty with the production. It's not something that happens easily or naturally. You have to put a lot into it in order to get that kind of a sound out of it. And I think we're lucky to be working with quite a few people in our lives that have a good understanding of that and are kind of helping us out, helping us get there. Like Dave Reed, and having it mixed by Jamie King is going to be a big thing too. So, yeah.
This is exciting.
Yeah, it is. It is making an album.
Mm-hmm.
That's with songs that some of them are pretty old.
Yeah, you guys.
But that's just our.
You guys have been hearing a lot of these songs live since. I mean, I started writing some of them like with our former drummer Mike Elliott, and I was living in Albany with him. Back in like 2011, 12. And we started writing like song Star Cycle.
Yeah.
You guys,
I'm pretty sure
we
we've
heard this live
in
but,
like 2011.
But yeah, we probably played that song out live in 2011. I think we started writing it in like 2010, and then it started taking form in 2011. And yeah, I think we were playing it out by the end of that year. So some of these songs are pretty old, and we did go on a 2-year hiatus, so there's our excuse. But those songs that we've been playing, that we've brought to stage, when you take a song to stage, not to say it has a bunch of flaws in it, but like you really put it through some heavy trialing. The audience members, the jury, and you're putting it up on trial, and you're really building a case for it. All right, done lawyer jokes. But yeah, so you're strengthening it, and it gets polished just by playing it out in front of people. Different crowds, different venues.
The expressions of confusion and sadness and anger as you play something that's just a little too weird.
Yeah.
And then you're like, all right, maybe we'll back off.
Maybe we'll back off a little bit. But songs like Star Cycle, and I just recorded rhythms for one called the My Side Bias, which is, it seems to be a heavy crowd favorite. Yeah. People like that one a lot.
Has that southern groove there.
Has that southern groove. Every band names a song something at the start when you don't have the lyrics for it yet, and actually that was the name of it, was Southern Groove, for a little while there. Star Cycle was song B or something very boring. Song A was a song we wrote later. I don't know why there was such a backwards process for it, but all in all, we've got about at least 50 minutes, it's looking like, for this record. Things that I can promise people. 50 minutes, 8 songs. So yeah, there's some long songs. We have to do it. We're like, let's just, condense this a little bit, this 100-page paper, and let's get the real info out. And it's like, well, actually, there's so many things we can do with this song. Let's just say yes to the dress and just use them all. It's because you're sitting here, Kristen. So I have to make those jokes. Some Project Runway jokes. No, it's not Project Runway. That's another show. It's all fashion. Damn it, now I gave Zach something to cut out of this fucking thing. We're good, right? Do you want to go home?
Good? We're good. We're always good, dude.
But do you want to go home? Do you want to get out of here?
Yeah.
It was a long weekend.
It was a long weekend. It was an awesome weekend, though.
It was great.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun. So yeah, I think we're gonna close on that.
Spire Riffcast Radio Hour.
NPR. I can't get my NPR voice. I have to eat the microphone. All right. I think that's it.
Are we gonna plug our shows, because we do that all the time?
We do.
We have one.
We got one
super,
because we're tracking. So we have one show. Saturday, August 8th. It is on a day that people have shows. Tuesday, come out, guys. Saturday, August 8th in Jordan, New York at Kegs Canal Side. No, we're not doing a country rock set. Well, maybe we will. After I saw Zach's open mic performance, we might actually have to do that. I'm very excited for a country rock style performance. But yeah, Kegs Canal Side. It's the 95X Locals Only Fest. It doesn't mean that you're not allowed to go to the show if you don't live around the area. It means local bands only. It's 13 bands, $10. The doors are at 11 a.m. Music starts at 12. And it's actually, if anybody remembers Dracula Jones from back in the day, it's Jeff Jones, Pale Green Star, as he's doing right now. And they're reuniting for this show. They're headlining. So there's metal, there's hard rock, and there's like experimental rock stuff. So it's not all heavy music. And from what I gather, I haven't been to Kegs, but there's room to move around. I think this thing's going to be outside. So like, you're not just getting pulverized with music the whole time. I know 13 bands, but it's going to move quick, and you're going to be able to roam around and enjoy the day and have some fun. Actually, I'll rattle off the bands to you guys real quick. Crow's Cage, Feeding Affliction, Jeremiah's Razor, Phantom Chemistry, Only the Chosen, Mountains and Valleys, Murder in Rue Morgue, a band called Spire, American Primitive, Damon Laris, hope I'm saying that right, the Afro Nips, and Sean Fleming. So there's actually some bands that I've heard good things about and I have not seen before. So that'll be exciting for me too. Tickets can be ordered from us by going to spiremetal.bandcamp.com/merch. Scott Dixon said that tag was too long. Thank you, Scott, for getting us this show. That's the Riffcast. Questions or comments, please email us at spirenymetal@gmail.com. For bonus material from these conversations and for more updates on what we have going on, you can join our mailing list by going to spire.fanbridge.com. Thanks for listening, and see you at the show.